is everyone to get started again now? I just plugged them in. Okay, I'm gonna take that as a yes. Are we ready to go, Kara?
Yes.
We're good? Okay. Yeah, I'll ask them first. Okay, so there was a few items that we were asked to look at over lunchtime. So the first item being was the mill rates. No, you can bring that over. Well, the Innisfil mill rate for 22 is not right.
Oh, well, that's what was on our, okay, sorry.
Okay.
That was Silver Lake, wasn't it?
Well, I don't know off the top of my head.
Like that's okay.
6.7410. That might have been the total mill rate.
Oh, okay,
7410.
Oh, no, I know, but it's just
No, that's okay.
surprising because they've been going for the last few years that they were able to keep it level and then it's jumped to like 1.2. Because the population.
Oh, did we check for Red Deer County? From 21 to 22?
So also the lake too, like the going from 6.3 to 9.2.
No.
Silver Lake or Red Deer? Silver Lake.
Yeah, I think,
Sorry, but that included, okay, sorry, that 9 includes the school.
oh, yeah, we can't look at any of that stuff though. We can only look at municipal. Okay, we'll table this. We'll come back again.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, it's all good.
Is there something else in there that you wanted me to bring up?
No, that's okay. Okay, so the RCMP back pay, we did receive a letter back in 2021 from the RCMP, and they did indicate what our pay raise impact would be. At our 70% cost share, that's $152,000. Yeah, that's the retro back pay, yeah. So.
The fate of that is still unknown.
Yeah, in this letter that we received back December 31st, 2021, it indicated that we'd be receiving an update by January 6th of 2022, and we have not since then, so.
Yeah, and that came up at a meeting I was at last week as well, and there's still nothing, so.
Yeah. Okay. And then I just have the insurance history from 2019. It was requested that we just look at what the insurance has been. So in 2019, we paid $177,000 and some change, obviously. 2020, it was 188. 2021 was 194, and in 2022 was 205. So it goes up by, yeah, quite a bit every year.
Actually, it's pretty good. Sorry, I should wait for the mayor, but I think it was pretty good for all the buildings we have and all the vehicles. No, that's not,
That's a lot.
that's realistic.
It's 19% increase,
Yeah.
20% increase over
over,
that time frame.
over that many years.
Yeah.
Ours has gone up, mine has gone up that much too, yeah.
Who do you blame for that? Not Trudeau.
Apparently,
Carbon tax, tax flows
yeah,
from.
yeah. 2-cent carbon tax, right?
And just with the items that we have previously identified to cut, we are looking at still, we only need to cut about 60,000 more, and then we'll be sitting at zero. So, about 60,000 more is all we need to find in the budget.
To get to 4%.
We'll cut or raise revenue or what, however we want to find it. We only need to find 60,000 now, so. Right, yeah.
So I can't remember, did the, it's on some slide, I'm sure, did the historical village get their increase in this?
Yes, so they did,
Up to
up to 30, so they did receive 27, they received a $3,000 increase this year, so.
So one thing, Eric, I didn't look close enough, but Parkland Foundation, same?
Yes, so
Yeah.
the increase that you guys had already kind
Yeah.
of affirmed before is in here. So
Yeah.
it's 69 and some change, so it's in there at 70,000, right? So.
For Parkland Foundation?
Oh, I thought you were saying Parkland Library.
No,
So
sorry, Parkland Foundation.
Parkland Foundation is in there, and that's just an in and an out. So we
Yeah.
collect it on the tax notices, and then we remit it back to them.
But is it the same? Then-
Yes.
Yeah, okay. It's interesting because I saw,
We don't ever receive their request for increase until the new year.
right, but it still impacts our residents. And I saw last week, I think Mountain View was increasing like 18%.
Oh, really?
Their affordable seniors housing, yeah.
They have not increased in quite a few years.
No, they haven't, yeah.
Mayor Barkley, through to Director Vickers, can you just expand a little bit on this operating reserve that we haven't used in a number of years that you referred to yesterday?
Absolutely, we have a reserve, and to be fair, I don't know how it got there. It was sitting there for quite some time. And operating reserves are traditionally used to help stabilize tax increase years or for unidentified issues like throughout the year. If we needed to pull from reserves for a project or something that came up, we would likely pull from that a reserve if we needed to.
And there's what, about 309,
330. yeah,
330,000?
Yeah,
Okay,
roughly.
just so that I'm clear, thanks.
So
339, yeah. Yeah, 339,000,
Very back page.
yeah.
So with that there, and I was kind of going to wait till we went in camera to do the details, but the example that I'd like to use is the legal fees.
Yep.
Without talking any of the specifics, I think we've almost put a reserve in there because of what we spent last year, but we had two very unusual situations last year. So I don't think we should raise it that much, and then if you get a crazy thing come at you, you go to those reserves. That's my logic, that you're, you know,
I'd recommend you maintain 40, because you're gonna have property sales, hopefully industrial park and agreements, most of the legal. So there's a few on particular.
a different
activities
element of
coming,
legal
yeah.
fees.
And even if, yeah, and the solar, if you've advanced a solar project, that's legal review.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, would you like to continue going on with the slides? So I think the next slide is the road slide. Yeah, well, that's just the slide going over all our stuff. Just go to the next one. Yeah, perfect. Okay, let me just get to it here. So in this department, covers all the public works operations department. In this department, we do pay for, or they've asked for 4 summer student, which is the same as what they received last year as well. So operating projects, now we did adjust this, or it's on the list of something to cut. So we do have the infrastructure study at $15,000. The sidewalk repairs is so far staying in at $50,000. That is an identified area for trip hazards and things like that. But it's that new sidewalk portion that we'll be looking to cut. Contracted services, we actually already did cut this down from 85 down to 65. So in the 65, we have the center lines being painted. Contracted snow or rink snow removal, sidewalk and snow removal, sorry. Snow removal contract if we need as well in there for 20,000. Dust control and clean harbors. So the item that got taken out was $20,000 for one of those main street intersections. They're quite expensive, but we can hold this off and push it off till next year, but then next year we'll have to include it as well. Transfer to the fleet reserve was increased to $290,000 this year. While that may seem like a lot, we did increase from $250. The amount that we're pulling out of that fleet reserve is 300 and, let me just pull it up here. Yeah, 370,000 is coming out, so we're overspending and not putting enough into the reserve, right? So,
So does anybody have any comments about something we might want to take out of this?
I mentioned the sidewalk earlier, I think it was at 48th Street. So that's the other side of 48th Street.
No, it's not the other side, it's a continuation to the east towards the
Okay,
church.
all right. So it's
Because it's to identify areas in town that don't have any sidewalk on either side.
just keep on going. Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So it's just, it was
I thought it was,
identified.
I was like, oh, God. Okay, I just thought it was an awkward moment. I know somebody that lives on 48th Street very well.
Yeah, me too.
No,
I know 2 people that live on 48.
Well, actually, yeah, I know
Actually,
4,
One of them was actually.
5.
Well, one of them I know was kind of complaining they got a sidewalk because now they have to shovel the sidewalk.
yeah,
Mayor Barkley through to, in consideration that it just runs along the church there and behind the mailboxes, I mean, how well used would it be? It's not like it's fronting any homes or anything like that, and across the street, you've got the one home on the corner and then a vacant lot on the other corner, so.
it's to provide continuity
It's
or
a gap.
connectivity.
Yeah,
If you're
yes,
coming through
because-
that area, there's all of a sudden no sidewalk
Yeah.
for a block
I
and
know,
there's.
we walk down that all the time in
Yeah.
the middle of the road with our dogs, so.
Ultimately, it's to address the trail master plan that we
Yeah.
have. So in that trail master plan, it shows connectivity and there's a big gap. So to get us from kind of the east side of town to the west side of town, they picked primary sections, and this is just one of those areas that is identified as a gap.
And there's also no sidewalk on 48th Avenue either.
Going
Yeah,
up the hill.
there's sections there too, so.
And that was one of the comments even with the surveys was, especially in the older areas of town where there's, school kids walking to school and things, and then there's just no sidewalk
Yeah.
partway through their route.
So, yeah. I'm just thinking, well, I don't know, I'm just thinking where the traffic would be is probably more along the next street, which is like 46, walking to the schools. And there's sidewalk there on the one side. Yeah.
There's definitely probably areas, if we were to reevaluate the trail master plan, based on priority, I think we are going off of the recommendations from the
Yeah,
plan.
sure.
That's kind of what we're trying to target is to finish those recommendations. Part of this evaluation of the trail master plan this year, we could, if we want to pause this, reevaluate it and maybe look at then what's our next strategy moving forward. So.
Well, I would vote on pausing it, but
I'm not pausing it.
Yeah, I agree. And if I can just have a comment, Mayor Barkley, on 56th Street, you talk about continuity. We have a Trans-Canada Trail that comes down along the lake. It ties into the boardwalk there. And there is no sidewalk would be on the north side of 56, all the way up the hill. You got to cross 56th right at the bottom to get onto the sidewalk. And my comment would be, we should put a crosswalk, or there used to be a crosswalk there. I can see the old paint on the pavement. I don't know why it was never, but to get from one side to the other, and it is the Trans-Canada Trail. So I just throw that out. Thank you.
so maybe that goes back to what you're saying, Director Kennedy, like kind of maybe relook at the trail master plan and Councillor Maceros.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Through to Director Kennedy. How many sections, first of all, how many sections are there that need to be addressed? And then secondly, with the cuts that we're talking about making to this budget, we're moving $70,000 worth of projects to next year. If we make those 2 cuts that's a lot of movement from one area.
At the top, I don't know how many other areas are identified in the trail master plan. I'd have to come back to you with that one. And then, yeah, it would just, I think what we would end up doing is coming back to you this fall with a new strategy and how that can be implemented in the operating, so that we're not just saying, okay, next year we need $100,000, it's maybe a new strategy moving forward and how we can manage it within the budget that we've established this year.
So, Director Kay, I'm not sure how, like, securing the contract, like, is that something Collins would do, or do you put that out on an RFP, or?
Yeah, we RFQ it every year, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm just thinking, gentleman that was here earlier today made a comment about the concrete cement situation too. So what they are doing is like trying to secure pricing sooner rather than later. But like if the price changed, like the concrete price changed drastically, you know, even though we've already done something with them and, or we've chosen them, can they come back and say, gee, it's 30% higher than what we thought, sorry? Or,
I think you would have to put that in the clause that, you know, if material prices triple, then it's not fair to, like, I get it, we secure a contractor for multiple years, but to secure them in a price, what you would end up doing is paying a lot of risk up front for them to assume what's gonna happen, say, the next 3 years, versus putting a clause in of most competitive price this year, and then negotiate, okay, any inflation in material, then you would add that and negotiate with them. But we are looking at, you know, our contracted services with, yeah, individuals like Collins Concrete has done our sidewalks for the last, since I've been here, 4 years, 3 years. So, yeah, why not look at a multiple year, so we're not going every year. It's definitely a strategy moving forward. But yeah, unfortunately, I wouldn't recommend securing a price in.
Okay. Is that good for roads for now? Or is there any other,
are we taking that out?
it's out.
What does everybody think? Out or in? Out?
I'm indifferent, sure. No,
out or
there's
in?
certain things that are not emotional about it, take it out.
Out? Okay.
Okay, when we can move on to parks then. So, Parks has a little bit of revenue in that department, so they do have all the revenue for our like soccer fields and football fields. I don't know what happened.
That's council consideration.
No,
Should be
that's
slide
okay.
32.
Yeah. Okay. So for salaries, we did put in for 9 summer staff this year, so that is an increase of 4. They do have some operating projects that are in this department as well, so they do have $15,000 for tree planting and $11,000 for tree removal. Also replacing the wood bullards for $10,000. We do have contracted services. We do pay for any of the porta potty rentals throughout the town. That comes out of this deposit, or this department, sorry. And $350,000 transferred to reserve. That's been the same the last couple of years. 150 of that is being earmarked to go to the facility reserve, and 200,000 will just go into the recreation and culture reserve to be used for all of rec and culture. Horseshoe pit?
No, they don't have one.
Oh.
No,
Then yes, it does include it, because they don't have one. It's not in there.
non-existent one, yes.
Yeah.
Includes the Diamond One one.
Yeah.
I had a question.
Sure.
Part-time staff, how many did we have last year? You said you had a reduced
We
group.
had 5 last year.
Okay.
And this year we're asking for 9.
How much are they paid? Is it a 4-month period or a 3-month?
So it's approximately 4 month, give or take a week or two.
Yeah,
And we do have a grid. They start just over $17 an hour. If you think about each summer student, on average costs us about $15,000
Yep.
for the season. So 115, 230, so the 4 additional is approximately $60,000.
Can you make it with 7? Count paper clips. You just gotta be honest, just up front.
Well, I guess it comes down to the service level. So what's your expectation and in maintaining service levels? So
I'd
this
ask.
is what we believe we need to maintain service levels. If you're asking us to reduce that, then
And I think too, Councillor Heist, like, if you go back to what Director Kennedy said, like the industrial park, they now have to look after with
No,
weed
I-
control and
I heard that.
Bella Vista, and, okay.
Trying to create a balance.
There's other ways.
Thanks.
I get it.
That's all I have. I'm good with it.
Through the council, I said, I agree. I mean, that's an additional 160 people hours a week between those four staff. And I mean, I realized that there were some weeds and stuff out front, and that we've got the additional service land, industrial land, but having had a landscaping business before and know, you know, I still, I mean, I'll defer to your evaluation on it, but I just look at that, that's a lot of hours and a lot of stuff that can be done in those 160 hours a week, so that's just my observation.
I know, Mayor Barkley, council, I know a few years ago challenged staff, Steve and his team are open, so we reallocated one to enforcement and then went over to skate park, and Steve said, let's challenge ourselves last year. And so the additional events also plays impact, so there's a cumulative pieces to it, and certainly I can lower it based on your desire to do so, and then we can measure once again. There's a lot of factors. One is it can be a wet season or not a wet season, but the one of the biggest complaints besides cats and dogs would be aesthetics, I'd say. But as long as you're aware of that and the result of lowering those services, that impact would come back to you.
And as I mentioned yesterday, I'd rather see you have this staff and not, and that sort of thing, if there's other places we can do it, but like I said, just in my mind, that was just one thing I was looking at, the amount of hours within that, so, like I said, that's one I really wouldn't wanna touch, but I just was bringing up my observations.
I do believe we had some deficiencies last year too, like, I could point you out quite a few in my neighborhood. I think, I vaguely remember somebody talking about weeds even on Main Street, but in my neighborhood, I know there were things that were, because we made that transition to expecting that the citizens were gonna trim outside their yards and stuff like that, and I think some of that got misinterpreted too, and there was some of the pathways that they weren't maintained, that weren't citizen type stuff. So I'm speaking in favor of keeping the 4 until, you know, if we run out of things to trim, then we'll look there again. But
Maybe what would help, Director Kennedy, give us an idea, like just to look after the cemetery, how many people and hours would that take just to go through and mow and weed trim and? Is that a hard question? Okay, sorry, okay.
yeah, we maintain it every Thursday. What we end up doing on Thursdays is we take pretty much all the resources that we can, and we hit the cemetery so that we can get it done in one day. So it really depends on, and I think last year we definitely struggled. There's another item that we struggled at is, you know, the hedges along the cemetery. So just things like that we did notice that were more of a struggle to take care of. This would just help that.
Yeah. I think of Centennial Park alone, how long it takes to, you know, mow and weed, and it's a lot of grass.
Just something to observe, right? Asking the question.
Okay, anything else in the parks that we wanna look at? Okay, let's move on to transportation.
Well, before we do that, Director Vickers, the 350 into reserve, that'll bring the reserve up to 350. Like, I look at the reserve sheet here and anything that I think is attributed to parks is at zero now. Like,
Yeah, so out of that 350, 150,000 is going into the facility reserve. And then the other 200 is going into the recreation and culture reserve. So they're one right on top of the other. So rec and culture is getting 200, the facility's getting 450 and $900, and 150 of that is coming from this department.
okay, so the net in the recreation reserve will be
So into
200.
into the rec reserve is 200, yeah.
Okay,
So,
okay,
but
thank
then
you.
205 is coming out, so it's
Okay,
really like
thank you, so.
a net zero.
thank you.
We can talk about it right now. Okay, are we ready to move on then, or? Yeah, okay. Let's move on to public transportation. So this is going to look a little bit different this year and in future years than it did before. So the big thing is that the bus, we will be looking at sending to auction this year, and then eliminating that service. But however, the rentals and leases, we're reducing the bus revenue to zero, but increasing the Pace Bus program revenue, as the Legion will no longer be taking it on and will be going to a contractor. So we will be seeing a little bit more of that revenue coming in. However, the contribution that we would pay, the contracted services that we would pay to run this service will likely increase. So we did increase it from 88,000 that we would have paid to the Legion up to 96,000. And that likely is only for a 9-month period. We would anticipate starting this service in the end of March or April. And likely the following year that would increase back up to about that 120,000 or so.
So as we calculated this, did we calculate on the basis of the second Pace Bus being here for how many months? When did it come? It wasn't here all year, was it?
Yeah, the requisition didn't change to the Legion.
Sorry?
The requisition didn't change to the Legion based on the new bus, but it started operating in June.
Okay, but the actual costs of operating it is what needs to go into next year's budget
And that's
for the
calculated
year,
in.
for a
yeah,
whole year.
yeah.
Yeah, in the new calculation, we've incorporated both of the Pace buses, the bigger one and the smaller one.
I don't see anything coming off for the community bus. Like, when that's sold, that money's gonna go into somewhere in here?
So that won't go into this operating budget at all, we'll put that into reserves.
Right
So-
into reserves?
Yeah,
Okay,
well, it'll go into the fleet reserve, yeah.
yeah. And which reserve would it go into?
So technically, right now, it would go into the bus reserve, and then all those fleet reserves are eventually gonna get merged into one, so that
So
we
that'll
just
be
have
the
one
new
fleet.
reserve policy that you're working on?
yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So you may not.
I think what I heard yesterday is, have we looked at doing that internally or externally, that service? And I think from what I understood yesterday, it was, you were still looking into those pieces, right?
We are looking into it,
Yeah.
We just had an RFQ or RFP out, and it just closed, I believe,
Last week, so we'll put together a business case with basically a contracted service and an internal model.
and then
Okay,
bring that
thanks.
down, so.
And Director Jenkins, will that go to the Transportation Committee first for them to review, and then they'll recommend to council?
We'll have
or-
to see, we did, the Transportation Committee did make a motion to basically evaluate these models, so it might just come back to council, but we'll see.
And the transfer to reserve for this department, we did lower, it was sitting at $15,000. And that was split in between the bus reserve and the handy van reserve. Now we've lowered it to $10,000 because it will be going 100% into the handy van or the PACE bus reserve. So. Okay, but you'll see more on this department later when Director Jenkins brings in all of her research on the program, so. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, we would like to show the mill rates now, that they're all good. Okay, so we got the last couple of years of the mill rates for these few areas. So you can see Innisfell 6.6, 6.6, 6.7410, and then Black Falls. So they went from 8.2 to 8.6 and then down to 8.3.
I think what, so I know you wanted some residential
Yeah.
ones in there, just residential, but I think these past ones, they included the lodging and the transportation, but not the rec and
Lodging and the transportation.
the school tax.
Okay. Okay, we'll look at it